Good evening, YouTube.
Oh my god, I was choking him!
And I tossed him on the ground. Yes, that whole skit was scripted, and yes, I did come up that the last minute. Anyway, so this week I am going to be reviewing Good Morning Vietnam, which was one of Robin Williams' early starring roles in a movie that was a hit. Because at this point, he kind of the only thing he really had success in was stand up stand up comedy. Okay, I'll try not to stutter a whole lot. Um yeah, so this movie came out in 1987 and it was actually based off of an actual disc jockey that worked in Vietnam named Adrian Cronauer. Unfortunately, according to Cronauer, the only thing they got right about him in the movie was he was a disc jockey and stuff happened. um but he said that aside from his character and his personality, they got 45% of his experience is correct. And the first thing I want to mention is that I have this right here at the bottom of the video, but there are going to be spoilers. And in fact, I'm just going to have spoilers written next to, in parentheses, next to the title of every review I do from now on. Because for me personally, I find it very difficult to review a film properly without giving certain plot points away. And I'm not really worried about that too much because most of the movies I review, I think people probably have seen these movies already. Plus, this movie's like 32 years old. So hopefully, you do end up watching this film based on my review. So the movie is kind of a typical Robin Williams plot. Robin Williams is in there doing his thing, being a funny rapscallion, and the people that are portraying the man are stiff assholes who don't know how to take a joke. And in this case, the stiff assholes are played by Bruno Kirby and another lieutenant in the army whose name I can't remember. But their commanding officer is always on Robin Williams' side, and especially for one of the funniest jokes at the end, which I'll get to near the end of this review. So right off the bat, this script was tailor made for Robin Williams. I mean, from his goofy, charming personality that makes him very lovable and very endearing to the comedic riffs he has when he's actually doing his radio show. And a lot of Robin Williams' jokes, they are really funny. I think the best way to describe this, if I was to use another Robin Williams movie as a metaphor, think all the riffing he did in Aladdin only 5 years earlier with a more raunchy adult sense of humor. I mean, the movie is rated R after all, so you might as well get your money's worth. Um, yeah, so there's actually a lot of highlight reel style moments with Robin Williams' character. One is when he befriends a Vietnamese boy named Tuan, and he invites Tuan to go to this bar with him and his army buddies. And there's some other soldiers that are kind of messing around with the women in the bar. And Robin Williams convinces the women to come over to his table so he can help boost morale of his nice but shy friends. And one of the soldiers gets mad at Robin Williams, to which Williams makes one of his many funny quips in the movie, saying that the guy has a small. Well, you know what I was looking at. Anyway, so there is that, and then the soldier gets mad at Robin Williams, who just headbutts the guy in the chest, and he goes flying across the room. That was a lot of awesome. That was really awesome to see because I mean we know Robin Williams is a great comedian, but I don't think we necessarily see him as a guy that can do a good body blow. I mean it's like he's a comedian, not a bar bruiser, a bar brawler, which that's one of the many offenses he gets in the movie against the stiff upper lip authority figures. But there's one point in the movie, I think what I can say about this film, there's really not a whole lot to say about it that wouldn't be overly long and bloated, but the movie is really good at being very comedic and also very crazy with just the frenetic energy of Williams. But one of the major, there is one major flaw with the movie that is sadly and unfortunately it's a big one, and that is the tone. Because throughout the majority of the movie, it's Williams mingling with everybody, finding a girlfriend, romancing, or just being an all around sweet guy. But then I think it's around the halfway point of the movie, things get really dark really fast where Williams walks out of a bar and it explodes right as he gets maybe about 5-10 feet from the bar. Excuse me. And unfortunately, the movie goes in such a drastic change in tone to making it really dark and really dramatic and really serious. I had a very hard time understanding if I was watching the same movie. And I don't really mind a movie that can be comedic and dark, but there has to be some form of balance. There has to be some sort of equilibrium that evens everything out. And this kind of went like from here to there with the tone. And that was how drastic of a change it was. It was really distracting. And I mean, it got to a point where Williams gets lost at one point, and I'm thinking, wait, is this the same movie I'm watching? Because that whole sequence of acting right there was literally my thought process at that point. Um, and the movie does get really dark at one point where Williams is about to get fired for his antics, and the commanding officer looks at Williams. He's like, "Sorry, I can't really help you." And Williams takes one last jab at. Actually, no. What happens is that he goes to one of the lieutenants who accuses Tuan of setting up the bar explosion, and because Tuan conveniently grabbed Williams, took him out of the bar before it blew up, and then found Williams in enemy territory, which, by the way, the douchebag lieutenant sent him there hoping he would die. So, and you do kind of think that it was all a setup for Tuan to make the rescue, so the lieutenant could make a convincing argument that this Vietnamese guy had it in for Williams. And what makes the next twist really good is that you do think that this lieutenant is just making this stuff up because of racial bigotry and just ignorance. You do think this is a very racially charged evil motivation, but then you get the reveal that Tuan actually was trying to blow up the bar. He just moved Williams out of there because Williams was literally the only white guy he actually liked. And also because Tuan's family had gotten gunned down during the war. So, I mean, again, if this movie was trying to be a comedy that also was trying to make the point that war is hell, I think I would have liked it more if there was like, for every 5 minutes of lightheartedness, there's about 3 or 4 minutes of something dark. And if they made it more of a blend of comedy and drama, this would have worked a lot better instead of making the first half nothing but jokes and the second half nothing but drama. And when Williams does leave, he tries to plead Tuan's case to make it a little more understandable. And of course, Williams gets kicked out, and before he leaves, he has one last zinger where he tells the lieutenant that he's the one white guy he's met in Nam that could really use a blowjob right about now. And even the commanding officer, the general, he's like, okay, that was really disgusting, but really funny at the same time. I really liked how the general in this movie had a sense of humor, and it was just the officers right below him that had a problem where it was very much the case of only 2 people hated Robin Williams and everyone else loved the guy. It was actually pretty funny because it's always a lot of fun to see the underdog win, and even though Williams technically lost, he did get a honorable discharge, so he at least went out in style, or at least went out without his tail tucked between his legs. I think that's really all I have to say about the movie. It is really sweet at the end where Williams plays baseball with all the Vietnamese people he met at the end of the movie. All the people he befriended at the English as a second language club. Because for one thing, he only joked his way into getting that job just so he could get to know Tuan's sister that he had a huge crush on. And even then, Robin Williams is like in his 30s, and this woman I think is at least 21, so that's not the age of consent is there, but it is really sweet to see him leave. And what's also really inspiring is that his buddy Forrest Whitaker ends up taking on the job as disc jockey after Robin Williams leaves, and he even does the famous line that Robin Williams had, which I, by the way, parodied at the beginning of this video. I'm really happy I'm not stuttering and going off tangents and being disorganized in this video, so hopefully I can be a little more organized next time. I think I might want to do my reviews later in the week than the day right after I do my guitar covers. So, all in all, even though there's a huge tone shift that's very distracting and extremely disorienting, this movie is definitely a great one to check out. I know most people my age probably know Robin Williams from Mrs. Doubtfire, Aladdin, Jumanji, but this is one of his earliest hits. This and Dead Poet Society, but I would definitely recommend watching this one because I've seen it, I laugh my ass off, and that's what every comedy needs to do. So I'll see you guys on Monday with